Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. On the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me three French hens, turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the fifth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me five golden rings, four three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the sixth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me five golden rings, four three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the seventh day of Christmas, my true love gave to me seven swans a-swimming, five golden rings, four three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the eighth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me eight maids a-milking, seven swans a-swimming, five golden rings, four three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the ninth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me nine ladies five golden rings, four three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the tenth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me ten boys a-leaping, nine ladies dancing, three maids a-milking, seven swans a-swimming, six geese a-flying, five golden rings, four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 11 pipers piping, 10 lords a-leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids a-milking, 7 swans a-swimming, 5 golden rings, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 10 lords a-leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids a-milking, 7 swans a-swimming, 5 golden rings, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. Remain standing if you would, just a moment, because you'll want to give Lenora a standing ovation. I want you to know that Lenora has a cast on her right hand. On the 31st of October, she and her 2 little girls were involved in a very, very serious automobile accident, and she broke both bones in her right wrist. She is an accomplished musician, as you can tell. She plays the piano beautifully and is an ace organist. Just nobody is any better. And I can't thank her enough. When Ellen Weaver suggested that I call her, I said, I can't do that. She's got a broken wrist. She said, well, I think she's playing a little bit. And boy, do you play a little bit. And thank you so much. If anybody would like to purchase one of the lovely poinsettias that I brought with me today, they're $25 a piece, and all the money goes to the cart fund. And you can either make your own check or you can give me the money and I'll put it in the cart fund, but it all goes, no payoff what it cost us or anything like that. It all goes to the cart fund.
No money to IPTAY?
No. No, I plow twice a year, but no money goes to IPTAY.
Thank you, Lenora, and thank you, Rusty. That was great fun. I'm sweating now. I don't do that many times. Quick announcements. The baskets on your tables are also there to thank the staff at Siebel's. They've been so accommodating, so helpful this year. So I hope that you'll be generous for them too, as well as the cart fund. And I have been asked to announce at the final moments of the counting. So if you have any ballots left, please raise your hand. Pick it up. And the announcement will be made by the end of the meeting.
Are you going to have this?
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
I'd also like to point out, last week, there was some question as to the validity of our election, that maybe we weren't doing it exactly right. But in further checking, we're doing it exactly according to the bylaws. So while I appreciate the questions because it keeps us checking and on our toes, by all reasons, we are doing everything just right, so rest assured. Now, I'm also happy to report this past Saturday, we had a food packing event, and it was so much fun and a huge success. We had probably 60 people participate, which was wonderful. I would like to personally thank Cynthia Giles, who arrived with her husband at 6:15 in the morning to help set up. And also is Dr. Craig Witherspoon here, Superintendent of Richland 1.
He's probably still unpacking all the food.
Yep. He brought over 20 people to help us. And so it was a morning of, well, to start off, the organizer had car trouble. So he was a little late getting here, but we had time to visit, and Siebel's provided coffee and pastries. So it was a great time of camaraderie and fun and doing something really good for other people. And I want you to know, well, first of all, those that participated, would you please stand if you're here? Please stand and be recognized. Meals we packed, 10,532 meals for families in this area. What else? Oh, and speaking of opportunities for service, Salvation Army bell ringing, Chase and Andy reported that everything is good. They've got all slots filled, and they're doing well. So if you want to volunteer, I'm sure they can find a slot for you, but at this time, they're doing super. So thank you all. Anybody here that participated in the bell ring, please stand.
In the past and in the future.
Signed up?
How about not yet?
But not yet signed up for this year, right, sorry, yes. Stand up. Thank you all. Now, for more social times, we have no meeting next week, so remember, but we do have our club social on the 16th at the Governor's Mansion Complex at the Lace House. And Margaret Clarkson and Carolyn are co-chairs. Would you like to say something?
Okay, so y'all know next week is our social at the Lace House, and the Lace House is on the Governor's Mansion complex, just in case anybody wasn't quite sure where that is. And that social is in lieu of our meeting, so we will not have a meeting next Monday, but we will have our social. So a couple of things about it. It's at 6:30 to 8:30. We have valet parking, which is really important because it's beautiful, but it's a little bit dark to get there. So it's a gorgeous thing. The Lace House is a historic, elegant building that is owned by everyone in the state. It's a beautiful thing that we have, and it's a gift. So the tickets are $10 a piece. Brad is actually accepting payment right this minute. And we still do a quick shout out for last minute sponsors. Did Mason? Okay, and then there's a sponsor, okay, and then Frank Brown. I think that we are done with sponsors, so y'all thank you so much. And once again, Brad can accept payment for that too. So the dress code is coat and tie. And as I said, the tickets are $10 a piece. And this is an opportunity too, if you want to bring a prospective member or someone you want to introduce in Rotary to kind of show off your club a little bit and get a feel of what we really like. This might be an elegant opportunity to do that. I really think that's it. Louisa, can you think of anything else?
Margaret, I have a question. What all is included in the $10 ticket?
An exceptionally good time.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Cynthia, for that and detailed question.
Is it a
No,
cash bar?
it's wine and beer and catering, and Jesse Bullard is catering. Of course, you know he's a member of our club.
And
So
that's
he's
all
very
part of the
generous.
ticket, right? We get wine and beer and food, all
All
part
that
of
is
it.
in the ticket. Yes, all that.
Good plug, Cindy.
That's the
Yeah.
part of the sponsorship that was really important.
Where you get that for $10?
Yeah. Where else can you get wine and a meal for $10?
$10.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Have a good time.
Yeah, at the Lace House even. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
please join us if you're going to have a sweet time with all of us doing something social and lovely.
Thank you, Margaret. We're all looking forward to it. And now, Lynn Matthews, our Membership Development Chair, has a few words.
Hello. Okay. I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on last week's meeting. We had a great meeting where everybody put down some names. Hopefully you have a card with 5 names on. I happen to have Mason Hardy's card right here. He's my accountability partner. So maybe like Christmas Day, about noon, I'll just call him, make sure he's done his accountability partnership. But no, really, if everybody could just call that person, check on them, see if they've called any of their people to talk to them about membership. And I'll give you an example of how this worked for me. Right off the get-go, Jimmy Derrick called me right after the meeting, said, hey, you know, Keith Hudson's been wanting to join our Rotary Club. I said, okay. I emailed him a application, and he signed up, gave me the application the next day. So it's just that easy. Just ask some people, you'll be surprised what they'll say. So I just wanted to follow up with that, follow up with your accountability partners, and have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
And now to introduce our fabulous speaker, who needs no introduction because he's one of our own, but John Denise.
Thank you, President Louisa. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I want to remind everybody, when we talk about the foundation, this is our last meeting of the year, so if you wanted to make a contribution to the Rotary Foundation to reach your next level of Paul Harris Fellow, or get your first Paul Harris Fellow, please do so. There's matching funds that are still coming from the district, so this is a great time to do it before the end of the year. Mason clarified we should make our checks out to the Rotary International Foundation, but give them to any of the team here, and they'll make sure they get to the right spot. If you need to know your giving level of where you are and what it would take to get to the next level, I've got the report right here, so just let me know. I'll be happy to provide it. Now, my official duties today are to introduce our guest speaker. And normally, you know, when you get these bios, sometimes you want to trim them down and everything, and then I read this, and I want to keep all this in there because Jim's done so many interesting things. And years ago, we started a practice where we would actually talk about people in the club and kind of spotlight them before they passed away. Because we always do these memorial resolutions where you find out these amazing things about the members of our club that have done so much good stuff. So I'm not going to trim this down so that we don't have to do a memorial for Jim later or anything like that. I'm going to read most of this. So Jim is a self-described Army brat from Columbus, Georgia. He's an Eagle Scout. He graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And I'm not going to read the year. You're welcome. He served in the regular Army as an infantry officer for 26 years. He served behind the Iron Curtain in the Berlin Brigade, the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, the 1st Ranger Battalion in Savannah, and both the 18th Airborne Corps and 5th Corps before retiring as a colonel. He was deployed in support of combat operations in the Caribbean, and I bet that was a tough one. I mean, that big invasion of Grenada, how long did that take? But also the Balkans and the Middle East. Jim's got a master's degree in education from USC, as well as a master's in national security strategy from the National Defense University in Washington. He served on the staff and faculty at USC, the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, and the U.S. Army College of Infantry and Armor at Fort Bend. After retirement, Jim did a little bit of dabbling in real estate with Lane Liggett and Andrew Walker, as well as the Tomlin Company, and he was very instrumental in the planning for the Transitions Homeless Shelter. He also served as a strategic planner in the workforce development for the South Carolina Department of Commerce. For the last 7 years, Jim has served as the CEO for the South Carolina Council on Economic Education. Jim has 4 children. One son is a Furman grad and lives in Hong Kong. Another son, and I love that he points this out, he points it out all the time, that his son is a dropout from AC Flora. And he did. He dropped out his senior year to found an IT company and works up in DC and is absolutely crushing it, has his own cybersecurity company up there in DC. He's also got 2 other children who are, one's a sophomore at the Honors College at USC and the other's a senior at Dreer. Jim and his wife, Kelly, live in Shandon. And on the side, he's a beekeeper, a chicken owner, an outdoorsman, and a proud parent. He loves Columbia and serves on many boards, including the Board of Economics. So please welcome our own Jim Morris.
Listen, it makes me just a little bit nervous. I've seen so many people up here doing things. So, can you hear me? I hope so. Okay, I know you would prefer to have Doug Woodward here. What a great guy he is. He gives a great presentation about the economic outlook. I did attend it at the Darla Moore School of Business last week. He and Joey Von Essen just kill it. I hope I encourage you to go see that next year. They do it once a year, and they put things in very simple terms to say where South Carolina and the U.S. might be going based on economic some statistics. I also happened to attend in Charleston, I attended an Econ Outlook conference with Steve Slifer. I don't know if any of you know him with Numbernomics. Also does an excellent presentation. I mentioned that because I'm reminded of a joke. What do you get when you put 3 economists in a room? 4 opinions. And because it was interesting to to listen to what was going on, but my understanding is it doesn't look like the data is showing that there'll be a recession in 2020. Now, having heard that, I'm reminded of Yogi Berra's comment, it's tough to make predictions, especially when it's about the future. So I am the CEO for the South Carolina Council on Economic Education. We teach teachers at the K through 12 level. We teach teachers to teach economics and personal finance. Okay, and we're at the K through 12. Everybody seems to pick that up at the post-high school level, and it's like, wait, we got to start this way earlier, and we do. We're also called SC Economics. We do business that, try to say South Carolina Council on Economic Education a bunch of times, and you'll find it's very tough. Our teachers just call us SC Economics. We're a business-driven educational nonprofit, a 501c3. It was established about 50 years ago. We're loosely affiliated with the National Council on Economic Education. In New York, there's 49 other councils, maybe 30 of them are viable at this point in the various states. But we all do things our own way based on what we want within our state. And I would like to point out that we have several of our board members. Obviously, John Denise is on our board. Nikki Hutchison, who couldn't be here, AARP, she's on our board. Bob Quinn from SCRA is on our board. Rebecca, where you stick your hand up there? Rebecca, and she gave a great briefing, as you all know, about a year ago. And boy, I tell you, when I heard that brief, I went zipping up to her, and I've been courting her for about a year now to get her on our board. And so she did join us last week. We also have Bernie and Bernie Maybank and Bill Edmonds, who have been on our board for a long time, although they are no longer on it, but we count them as friends of our organization. There's actually more of you in this room, but it was before my time. So let's see, so where was I? Okay, so we have informal relationships with several colleges in the state. Our most powerful, probably, or the strongest one is at Winthrop College. Gary Stone, Dr. Gary Stone's been there for 40 years teaching econ. He has taught many of the folks here in one way or another, especially my program staff. They've all attended his workshops because he's been doing it at the Winthrop Center of Excellence. We also have one at the Darla Moore School, and we're at the Darla Moore School, but we're not part of the university. They give us space, and I get to know a lot of professors, and they all volunteer their time doing various subject matter whenever I need a particular subject matter expertise. As a matter of fact, Woodward and Joey Von Nessen have both worked with us in the past. We have to raise our own money, and we do have a small state grant that we must validate every year, which is always a little concerning, but we appear to have a good reputation with them. In this past year, we performed over 100 workshops, competitions, and conferences and various programs across the state just last year. About 1,600 teachers in South Carolina participated in our workshops and our competitions. I like this slide because it's kind of and it's the last slide, which almost makes it sound like it's over, but it's not quite. This slide sort of shows where we have done things. The little black dots are where teachers, there's at least one teacher from a school in that location that have attended our workshops. The little white dots show you where there's at least one student competition at a particular school. So you can see that we're trying to, we try very hard to be statewide. At any given time, you're losing 20% of your teachers, so the fact that we have grown so dramatically says that there must be a need. And the teachers, you read the evaluations, and it just makes your heart, warms your heart. We do have about 8 districts that we're not in right now, and we work hard to get in those to the best of our ability. You can always help by simply getting the word out to anybody you know that's a teacher, and we'll pull them in. We are no cost. In the last 5 or 6 years, we've been able to have no cost to the teachers. So we like to put them in real good, when we have workshops, we put them in places like Bernie Maybank's, Exit and Pruitt, up on their top floor, or Synovus, or others, because teachers want to feel good. They don't want to have a workshop. They prefer not to have a workshop right there in their brick and mortar. They'd like to go someplace fun. And we do that, and we provide lunch, pay for their parking, give them a lot of resources and lesson plans and things. That's very important. I do want to again point out my two, which I introduced once, but Rhonda Fulmer, a graduate of the Darla Moore School long ago, before it was the Darla Moore School. Okay, sorry, I should have said that. Oops. And Chandler's our program director. So really, so much of this depends on your program director and her assistant, which is Amanda Spiegelauer, who is back in a classroom right now. She couldn't be here today because she teaches out at Blythewood. She's a former Puller out of White Knoll. Pulled her out of White Knoll. She was teaching microeconomics. Amanda was teaching also economics, pulled them out of the high school as well. So these are classroom teachers teaching teachers. It's different than a professor. Professor, granted, they got all the skills and the depth of knowledge, but you put that person into a classroom, high school, middle school, elementary, and you need to have a sense of what the poor folks are going through in the classroom to make your teaching effective. And we have that, and I think it has shown that in the growth of the numbers of students. Just since in the last 7 years, since we have had a solid funding, a small but solid funding stream, we have grown from 279 teachers attending our workshops to 1,190 last year attended our workshops. That's just in a given year. We don't roll it over, okay? And then this year we expect that number to be even higher. In the competitions, which I think are fun, we bring competitions in the classroom, teach the teachers how to use them. I'll say a little bit more about that, but we went in one of them, the most functional one and useful is the stock market game. There's a couple of stock market games, but we're the stock market game that works with SIFMA. It's a national program, and there's a huge library of resources behind that competition. I could make an entire high school run using the stock market game because it's such an interdisciplinary. There's math in it. There's history. There's everything that you would need, and of course, every day in the newspaper, there's something that relates to personal finance and all the things that are associated with it. We went from 368 teams across the state to last year 2,064 teams just playing the stock market game, many of which are reflected up there. Another thing that our two program directors have done, we work very closely with the Department of Education. We're not in it, okay, although I like to say, hey, we work for you. But in the end, we're external to them, but we helped helped rewrite the standards in personal finance and economics. The economics course is required in South Carolina to graduate from high school. And there is personal finance in that. There's been personal finance in that required course, but it wasn't recognized. The title of the course was economics. It's real easy to just kind of gloss over that. Oh, that's that theoretical stuff. Well, it's not, and we don't teach it theoretically, but more importantly, there is a significant amount of personal finance. Well, this past year, this is a bridge year, it was already approved. Next year, the course will be called, and will be required by all high school seniors to graduate, it will be called Economics and Personal Finance. And the reason, part of that is because we want parents, when they're sitting around the table saying, hey, what do you got this, this semester? I want them to see personal finance in there, so they're asking questions, they're digging into it, they know that it's there. Out of a 60 hours of seat time for a semester of economics and personal finance, you should expect to see 15 to 30 hours of personal finance in that course. So please, whenever you hear somebody go, what we need is personal finance, it's there, okay? It's already there. So that you know this, because what happens, a lot of people come to me and say, yeah, I remember, gosh, we used to balance a checkbook. Yeah, I get it. Okay, we're very technical now, but we still have to kind of balance a checkbook. You can't spend more money than you have. Whether you do it on the checkbook or some other way, the topics just in personal finance include things in this course that every high school student has to have. Your various banking accounts, which includes check writing, saving, investing, protecting your money, budgeting, managing your money, forms of credit, creditworthiness, flow of money, liquidity, personal income versus long-term income versus wealth. Big difference between income and your income stops, and then you're left with wealth, okay? Social Security was never intended to be your wealth, okay? That was intended to keep us out of poverty at the tender age of 65 or 60-something. Long-term various college and career paths, loans and loan types and implications, opportunity cost, and future earning potential. Those are some of the topics just in the personal finance. Why is it so important? Well, gosh, you know, we all know it's important, but let's remember that half of Americans, when they reach retirement age, do not have more than $1,000 to $2,000. Okay, you can't live through a challenge, an emergency. Half of Americans, when they reach retirement age, are then living off of Social Security with nothing else. At the aggregate level, we probably fritter away about $1,200 per person in personal finance bad decisions. Okay, maybe not one year, one day, whatever. But when you put it all together, there's an awful lot that we lose. Pensions are going away, right? I mean, and now you're being given a 401k, and what if you put all your 401k money into a savings account and say you're going to do something about it? A savings account isn't going anywhere. I mean, it's just a teeny bit better than putting it under your mattress. Except under your mattress, you can lose it, burned, stolen, and all that other kinds of stuff. So we've got to know what to do with our money in a 401k plan. That takes decision making, okay? It's stocks, it's bonds. Some people say, you know, in the rural districts, I've had people approach me, why aren't we, these folks they're not interested in stocks and stuff. Nobody really talks about stocks. Exactly, if you want to relegate them to never having wealth and never talking about acquiring and accumulating and growing your money, well then maybe you don't talk about it. But it needs to be brought in. It needs to be brought in a fun, exciting way, and that's why we have the competitions. It's also important in South Carolina because econ teachers fall into social studies, the group. So, you know, you get your math, you got your STEM, you got all these others. But in the economics arena, you're just kind of put into the social studies, which means if you pass the social studies praxis, because you're a political science person or a geography person, you take this general test. If you pass that test, you're qualified to teach any of the subject matters. Well, how would you like to be a political scientist or geographer, and all of a sudden you've got to teach econ? You're told, most econ teachers are told to teach econ. They don't select it, okay? They get told to do it. As a matter of fact, who are most of the econ teachers? Coaches, okay? You come in, hey coach, and you know, we got a lot of energy there, but you know, I mean, there's just some things people don't feel comfortable with. It's nothing against the folks that are teaching it. It's we don't teach what we don't feel comfortable teaching, okay? And there's no assessment of economics or personal finance. Anyway, so it is very important in South Carolina, and I can't tell you the numbers of comments that come back to us with thank you so much. I mean, this is so valuable, the lesson plans and all those other kinds of things. We do a whole bunch of other stuff. Every year we have a bus tour where we take people to, you know, Nephron people, teachers, as we take as teachers, to you know, Baker and Baker, Bridgestone, Southeastern Freight, Nephron. We want teachers to know what are the skills. You know, there's a lot of money that you can be made at Southeastern Freight driving a lot of those trucks, and you don't necessarily need to, you know, to have a 4-year or a 2-year degree. Also, there's a lot of things that a teacher needs to know why people give incentives, or when they ask about infrastructure and roads. Well, how does that impact you know, these businesses? It's important for them to have that conversation with senior leaders of companies and businesses so they can inject that into their classrooms. One of the things that I'm most excited about this year, we're starting a new partnership with the treasurer, the state treasurer, Curtis Loftus. It's called the Financial Literacy Master Teacher Program. And this one, I got to tell you, our 2 program directors here just about killed themselves making this thing happen, because we proposed it in August and we had it developed at the end of August. And what this is the treasurer said, look, I'll put some incentive money behind if you get the teachers to do the following things, which includes a test, not given by us, but given by it's WISE, which is a national certification for personal finance. If everybody that does this has to take that test. Well, as you know, teachers are great at giving tests. But who likes to take a test? Not too many people, okay? But if you're going to be a master teacher, you're going to take a test, okay? And then you're going to have given several workshops, and we're going to coach you and mentor you, and then you get $500 the first year, $1,000 the second year, $1,500 the third year. I mean, that's real money. And also, when one of your teachings, as that teacher, and it's really like train the trainer, If that teacher teaches one of the requirements, which is at a workshop, we will give $100 to each of 10 teachers who attend that workshop. Well, that's pretty good. That incentivizes teachers to come to the workshops, and then we've incentivized the teacher to participate in this program. So it's really cool. We've got, our goal was 50 teachers this year, and honestly, I thought we'd get 25, and boom, we've got 49, I think, right now. So we're very, very excited about that because of the level of what we can try to do. Only got a couple minutes here. We do the full range. We do kindergarten, elementary, middle, and high school, and then in some cases you're talking to kids who are really college level kids. And let me just, so that at the AP level, advanced placement level of microeconomics and macroeconomics, we can be very proud in South Carolina that last year the pass rate of AP macroeconomics, which is you get out of 1 to 5, you get a 3, a 4, or a 5, which means basically you've kind of done college material and most colleges will accept that you have taken that college level course. Well, in South Carolina, 57% passed the macroeconomics exam in South Carolina versus in the US, 56.1%, okay? We're in the upper half of the nation in terms of that course. And of course, again, I use that, it may be at the upper end, but it's one of the few things we have that we can assess and make comments. Also in the microeconomics, which is closer to your personal finance things, our pass rate was 68.5% versus the US, which is 67, so we're in the upper half there too. So that says something, I get really irritated with the US News and World Report thing, it always puts us last and everything. But we have some things to be very proud of. We have a lot to work on, but we do have some things to be very proud of. We get grants, state grants, donations, partnerships. We do a lot of in-kind. Our budget is between $500,000 and $600,000 per year. I have 3.75 people on my staff, including me, my 2 program people, one of which is a half a person, and then Rhonda, and then I always have an intern. We believe in working with interns. So that was, in a nutshell, let's see, because I like to have some time to answer questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, the numbers are impressive. Also, there's obviously a concern about content in economic education today. We're seeing young folks who are embracing models that are antithetical to what both parties have embraced traditionally. How is that being addressed and what y'all are working on?
Well, I think that one of the best ways, when you have economics coming out of a book, or personal finance, by the time it's in a book, it's almost irrelevant unless you're talking pure theory. We try very hard to make things practical, things out of the news, okay, that they can use. So if you're there may be some specifics that you're talking about, and I'm not exactly sure what you're saying, but I would say that we try very hard for people to open a newspaper and understand the logic, or to understand the logic behind what Doug Woodward would have told you had he been sitting here, about inflation, the relationships between inflation, unemployment, what does unemployment really mean, and all the other types of things. So I would hope we're not teaching anything that is wrong, but please contact us and we'll see what that means. And we do have, again, the competitions, it gets kids involved and they do their own research. Because a lot of this is about making your own decisions. We're teaching teachers to teach children to research so that when they make decisions, it's based on something that they can get a hold of. I mean, Google's not an evil thing. You just have to make sure it's not fake news.
You're obviously energized about what you're doing, and that's great. I love to see it. We just hired a high school graduate from District 2, Richland County, and who is 28 years old, married, does some administrative work for us, and does not know how to write a check. So obviously what you're doing is needed.
Well, thank you, and we do see that. Unfortunately, we can't always go as slow as the slowest guy, but we do everything we can. You still have a certain element of you are responsible for yourself, but certainly beyond. I mean, many. You've got to go beyond a family that is maybe dysfunctional. We've got to get not only the folks to write a check, But we've got to push the top end also. Oh, we're going to have to cut out. I'm sorry. No, not done. Thank you.
He has graciously agreed to stay a little bit later afterwards if you've got questions, because I hate to cut him short. But now, well, first, I do it here. Thank you. Thank you so much for the and now, President-elect Mason, would you like to come and announce your new board?
This is my first time seeing these names too. So as I call these names, will you please stand up here? And we're going to have the board, the new board, gathered just briefly right over here. And they will be, these 7 people will be joining me, Louise as past president, and then Catherine Davis as president-elect on the new board. So here are your new board members, and they should join us here after the meeting. Blake Buchanan, Margaret Clarkson, please stand as I call your name. Doug Cochran, Cynthia Giles, Adam Jordan, Glenn Matthews, and Andy Shane. Welcome to the board. They will start in July. Thanks to everybody who put their name on the ballot. Everybody put themselves out there. These folks will be on the board July through June of 2021. Really appreciate those efforts. I do want to mention, I think as the president-elect, we will get Doug Woodward back. He just couldn't come today, so we had Jim fill in. Jim did a great job. But we're going to get Doug back. Our next meeting will be January 6th, because we have our wonderful social at the Glaze House next week. And then our first Discover Rotary that we talked about last week with Glenn Matthews will be on the 13th of January. So if you have prospective members, bring them here at 11:30 on the 13th. We'll do the Discover Rotary 45-minute thing, and then they can stay for lunch. And I hope to have a great speaker on the 13th. Thank you all so much.